And one of the biggest barriers to entry, I will say, is creating a social media friendly product. And if you can do that, and you can make your product, I call it like almost organically going viral, um, is a game changer these days. And that will get you to omnichannel very quick. And we can talk more about that if you like.
Welcome to the Ecomm Breakthrough Podcast. Are you ready to unlock the full potential and growth in your business? You've already crossed 7 figures in sales, but the challenge is knowing how to take your business to the next level.
Do you want to know what's working right now to take your Amazon business to the next level? Or do you want to know all the mistakes to avoid in the e-commerce space? Today's guest has been around the block a time or two, and he is sharing all of his secrets with us today. Welcome to the Ecomm Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hadley. I scaled my own brand from 0 to 8 figures in sales, and now my mission is to take it to 9 figures. On my journey to 9 figures, I bring you unfiltered conversations with the smartest minds in e-commerce. Past guests include Kevin King, Michael E. Gerber, author of The E-Myth, and Matt Clark from ASM. Today, I am excited to introduce you to Tomer Rabinovich. He is a self-taught Amazon business owner, consultant to some of the biggest names in the online sales industry, and one of the most sought-after speakers at Amazon seller events throughout the world. He began his entrepreneurial journey at the age of 10 as a professional magician. He studied economics and business in college, and he later launched his first product and established a thriving Amazon business based on observation, iteration, and the unique ability to simplify the complex. He now consults 7 to 8 figure sellers through his mastermind coaching groups and his digital programs as well. With that introduction, welcome to the show, Tomer.
Hey, Josh, very good to be here.
Tomer, excited to have you on the show. I know people have been following you and your teachings, and you've been on a lot of podcasts. You have a book, you have your own mastermind course, etc. So you're well respected in this space. So I'm excited to have you on the show today, and I'm excited to dive into what's actually working today. I think one of the best advantages you have, Tomer, is that you're consulting 7 to 8 figure sellers, and a lot of them on that point. And so you see behind you see under the hood of a lot of different e-commerce brands, and you're able to see what's working, what's not working, be able to help people avoid making the same mistakes that some other brand made, and also identify what are the patterns that cause people to win and share those with everybody else. So Tomer, tell me a little bit more, what are you seeing right now with these brands that you're working with? What's good going on in the e-commerce space? What are some of the challenges that people are experiencing in the e-commerce space?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest challenges is Amazon being Amazon, meaning that it's getting more and more difficult to succeed on Amazon alone. And I think more and more sellers are trying, and I emphasize that we're trying to expand outside of Amazon, going to Shopify or TikTok. Usually it fails, as you probably know yourself as well. It usually doesn't work out the way they planned. And I think it happens for a variety of reasons, but I would say that's one of the main challenges now. Margin keeps getting squeezed, tacos and PPC spend keeps going up. So, and also launching new products, I think is very difficult these days. And that's what I'm seeing across the board for sellers.
Yeah. I think that Amazon has never been more competitive than it is now, right? And when you could imagine it's going to be the exact same statement 3 years from now as well. But right. I would agree that the e-commerce landscape is shifting dramatically right now. I mean, there's the threat of social commerce. There's the threat of agentic commerce that's coming into play here. I mean, put on your look into your crystal ball, your magic hat here, Tomer. What do you think the e-commerce landscape looks like 3 to 5 years from now?
Yeah, so I honestly think what I've been doing for the past few years is the thing I think that will work in 5-10 years from now, which is launching difficult products. There is something I call the impossible product formula. What that means, when we started in 2014, 2015, a lot of the listeners you have on this podcast, we could just launch pretty much anything on Amazon and it will do well. And then we were told, well, you need to launch a nice packaging, 2016. Then we were told you need to launch some heavy products because no one does that. So you need to launch those. Then we were told you need to expand to Shopify, or you need to do TikTok, or like each year there's this like new thing. Right now it's like you need to go into AI and launch your products on ChatGPT. Like that every year there's like something new. What I think will always be true is launching impossible products that have barriers to them. And when we started selling, it was just find a simple product you can launch, like an easy, simple, light, cheap, whatever. And no, you need to go after difficult stuff, electronic or FDA, or it's flammable, or it's patented, or whatever, or it's very big and bulky and it's like difficult to ship and maintain and stuff. So if you can go after any type of those products that have very high revenue per month on Amazon, so I say it's usually over $1 million a month in sales in that niche, and then you just go and attack that product from every single angle, and AI is great for that, to do like the necessary product improvement for that product. So that's what I teach for the past few years. It's also in my book, like the similar methodology. But I do believe that launching impossible products is the way to go, and that's how you create a moat around your product. And you don't have 100 competitors as soon as you launch, and you're not fighting. So I say I want to fight only once, figuring out the product, and then I don't need to fight every day with my competitors all around me. Yeah,
I love that sentiment. And again, I think that some people may look at that and be like, oh no, that's too much work. But I think like through that hard work is where all the success and the true ROI hides now on Amazon.
right.
And Amazon's making it more difficult, which I think is a great thing, right? Amazon now, for the first time in a long time, actually cares about your child safety certifications. Amazon, for the first time, actually cares about having FDA approval or whatever claims are going on in the supplement space.
Right.
And like up until now, it's just been the wild, wild west. And so I love it when those barriers to entry get higher. Obviously, a lot of the overseas competition is just going to drop out because like for them, it's how many accounts can I spin up? How many cheap products can I throw up? How quick can I just make a buck? And they're not going to jump through all of those hurdles. Is that kind of what you're seeing on your side? There's just less competition in these more regulated niches?
Definitely, 1,000%. There is much less competition. I call it day one, page one type of thing. As soon as you launch, you're on page one with these products for a lot of different keywords. And that's exactly what you want to go after. And one of the biggest barriers to entry, I will say, is creating a social media friendly product. And if you can do that, and you can make your product, I call it like almost organically going viral, is a game changer these days. And that will get you to Omnichannel very quick. And we can talk more about that if you like. But that's just one of the barriers, right? There are many more, as I mentioned, but that's a social media friendly product is, I think, key at this day and age. If you can figure it out, you win.
So Tomer, I love where we're going here. So I think a lot of us that started on Amazon back in 2015, 2016, like the old way of identifying product opportunities was like, how many reviews are there? How big is the niche? How many competitors are there? What is the price of the product? And I didn't hear any of that from you other than, hey, how much revenue is that niche driving, right? Like I want $1 million a month in that niche. So Tomer, do you mind breaking down and maybe sharing like, hey, here's the actual checklist that I have my sellers in my group. Like, this is what we walk through to validate products before we launch them now, starting in 2026.
Sure. So again, you want to have big revenue per month. I would say, again, minimum $1 million a month. It's better if it's over 3 million a month. For example, Yoga Mat is a good example of a product. It can even be silicone spatula. It can be digital weight, right? Like a digital scale, I mean, and so on and so on. So, but then it comes down to differentiation, barriers to entry, what can you do with it to kind of stand out? Or you go after, so another thing you can do with barriers to entry is you can go after like a very specific niche. So an example I have in my book is launching a yoga ball for pregnant women, right? As an example of something you can do. And if you type that in Amazon, you will see there are already like a few sellers doing that, but then they can sell a product for $30 instead of like 10, 12, and have like a pregnant woman on the ball itself, on the main image. And that works really, really well. by just going after a keyword that people are already searching for on Amazon and just going very niche. And you can make 30, 50K a month with these products. And the other thing that they do, so the reason I want to go after such big revenue categories is because if I go after, what most sellers do is try to play it safe and they go after a small niche that does, let's say 50K a month or 100K a month. And then they expect to get like 20, 30K a month. But that doesn't really happen. To get like 20, 30% of that niche is almost impossible to do. But if you go after a $3 million a month niche, making 50K a month is not that much, right? So that's the whole premise here, is to go after those bigger opportunities. And there isn't more to this criteria. So I will say, well, a few more things maybe. So one, it needs to be, again, high volume in terms of revenue, but also high volume in terms of search volume is also important. There is no fixed number to this, but usually products that do like high revenue also have high searches for them. It's good if there is some more than like 10 keywords you can kind of go after, right? And just a bigger variety there. I will also say want a very high quality product where premium can matter. So that's just an added value there. So if it's, again, a yoga ball, I think people will pay more for like a premium version of that. But if it was like disposable cups, I don't think going premium will actually make sense, right? For that type of product, for example. So, and also anything like people can resonate with when it comes to stand behind that product, and it's easier to build a brand around, that's better. But because we're talking to probably existing sellers here, so if you are a beginner seller, forget everything I just said, go after something simple, light, whatever. Just launch whatever product you want and then build a brand after that. But if you're already experienced, you already have your brand, you already have your niche, just what I see again, so many sellers are just going after the same 10, 20K a month products. And I think that's wrong. I think they should go after much bigger fish out there. And instead of launching 5, 10 products, just launch 1 or 2, but go big, right? With whatever you're going after. And I think also if you want to sell your business, it's so much better to have 50K, 100K a month products than a whole bunch of 10, 20K a month products.
Love it. I think that's a great summary. And I think your point of, hey, if you're a new seller and you're just trying to make some money, like, okay, go back to the old school way of like, all right, just find a niche, might be small and light. It's going to be like shark infested waters over there, very competitive, but like, see if you can make some money here. And I like that strategy as well. I think there's like 2 options, right? If you're new and starting a new brand, you can either come with a lot of capital that allows you to like really go into serving some of these bigger niches, right? Because if you're trying to target a 3 million plus per month niche, you're going to need to come in with a higher PO, right? You're going to be expecting to sell a few thousand units a month. So if that's the case, like your original like PO from your manufacturer is going to be a lot bigger, which means you got to have the capital for that. In addition, your cost per click, like your advertising budget needs to be higher because you're going to be spending more money. There's more search volume for those type of products. So if you can come to the market with a war chest, then great, start there. But if you're just starting with like, hey, I'm working a corporate 9-to-5 job already, I'm barely making it ends meet, I have a shoestring budget, then launch small. But here's the most important thing is you just continue to recycle that capital. So stick with your 9-to-5 job, but then recycle that capital. When you get profit back from that product, then go take it up to the next level. If it was 10K a month, now go up to 20K a month, and you continue to ladder up. And that's kind of the playbook.
Yeah, Josh, I know both of us have kept our day job for a while until we quit. Like it took me 2 years to quit my day job, before I went all into Amazon. And I didn't have any kids back then. It was a lot easier for me. I could take like big risks. And I think a lot of people starting now might have, more liabilities and more stuff they need to be in charge of. So it's always more difficult, right? Once you have more risk and stuff. So definitely, I think this business, mostly when you start, you just wait to hear back from suppliers and to hear back from what's going on. So as you ramp up, I think definitely this is like a full-time business and profession and stuff, so you want to take it seriously.
Yeah. Tomer, you briefly mentioned it, but you want to launch a product that's social media friendly. What does that mean? And how do you identify something that's social media friendly?
So there are two types of barriers to entry. There is natural barriers, and then there are unnatural barriers. So a natural barrier, for example, is if I would tell you I would launch um, a thermometer, it needs to be FDA approved by nature. So naturally, a thermometer already has a natural barrier to entry. But if I'm launching a silicone spatula, right, I can say, well, it doesn't have any barriers to entry, but then I can say, if I make it electronic in some way, I create a barrier to entry for that product, right? Because electronic products is something not a lot of sellers want to do. Or I create a patent for it. That's like an unnatural barrier. So social media friendly products, for example, are most consumables, like beauty products, supplements, because someone can hold that product up and say, this changed my life. I feel so much better. And that like resonates with a lot of people. So that's like a natural barrier to entry that product has. If you can take a product that's a very boring product and very not something people won't talk about on social media, and you can make it unique or a unique experience of some sort, and you can make it social media friendly, I think that's very interesting to do that way. Or you take a supplement and you make it giftable, or you take any type of product and you make it something that it shouldn't be. I think that's the unique aspect. What I always say is, when I work on products, I want my products to be better, but I want my experience to be different than everything that exists out there in terms of packaging, in terms of inserts, in terms of anything the customer experiences while using the product. I just want that always to be as different as I can to stand out. And when I think about this concept of someone opening up a product, I have like one chance to get their attention, but they're fully focused on me. They are not using their phone. They're not like, if you watch Netflix, you might be on your phone at the same time. This is not that. They're just focused on you, on your product, on the packaging itself. So you have this big opportunity to create a very unique experience for them. And if you can make the product demonstratable, giftable, and the list goes on to make it social media friendly, that's exactly what you want to do. And it's, to me, the most interesting part is to find products that are not naturally social media friendly to make them social media friendly, or to make them even more social media friendly. So that's what I'm after.
I got it. Makes a lot of sense. And again, it increases that barrier to entry. And as you mentioned, like allows you to maybe expand into omnichannel a little bit easier. Tomer, I'm also curious, like one of the biggest challenges and probably one of the most number one asked questions in the Amazon space is like, what's the best Amazon launch and ranking strategy working today? So what are you seeing on that side of things? Like as you launch on Amazon, I mean, we have gone through, you've seen it over the past decade. There used to be search, find, buy and rebates. There used to be these big deal groups where you would offer 90% off coupon codes. They would go claim them. Those used to be the old tried and true methods. Like what's working for you right now, and especially with like the brands that you're consulting with?
Yeah, so I was probably an issue for Amazon for a few things that I said are good ways to launch products. One of them being launch a whole bunch of different listings, register to Vine, get all the reviews together, consolidate, get 200 reviews as soon as you launch. So I was one of the first people, I think, that talked about that, and a whole bunch of different strategies over the years that I was kind of like pursuing and doing myself. I'm all about hacking the system, right? Within doing everything white hat. I don't do anything black hat. I do what the system allows me to do, right? On Amazon right now, there is nothing you can do. When I say nothing, that means that you cannot do Vine across different listings anymore and combine them. You cannot launch listings in Europe and combine the reviews that way. That doesn't work. The only thing you can do is you can kind of pre-register to Vine reviews, get 30 reviews before your product goes live, and that's like the only thing you can do. What the sales that I'm doing with are doing are mainly going very heavily on PPC in the first week or two. Just very, very aggressive PPC. As soon as they launch with their 30 reviews, what a lot of sellers are also doing is using old listings with a lot of reviews and just leveraging those to launch products. So that's a very common thing that I see. Or they would launch, they would bring like a 3-tiered system. So they would bring 1,000 units, 3,000 units, and then 10,000 units as variations of one another. And they will just be very aggressive with PPC for the first two, might run out of stock, but that's like a test period. And then the 10K coming later is like the actual product they want to go in, all in with. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. But what I'm doing now, to answer your question, like is I'm launching a new brand that is in the supplement space, and my entire focus is on TikTok because I don't think I can launch it effectively on Amazon just based on the nature of the product I'm launching. And because it also doesn't have any long tail keywords, it's like a different type of brand that I'm building. And TikTok is my avenue to launch this thing. And that's why what I mean by like hacking the system, because I think TikTok, if you win on TikTok, you win everywhere else. I know you talked about this before. If you have a good video on TikTok, just copy paste that to Meta, run ads, and it will work. And you will get a lot of traffic to your Shopify and to your Amazon, and everything is going to pay off just by if you do TikTok correctly. So that's why I'm very bullish on TikTok for products that make sense for that platform. And then when I work with sellers now, I tell them, look, if you launch something that is social media friendly, it's going to be so much easier for you to launch this thing because you can just launch it on TikTok or Meta, and then you will get so much free traffic to your Amazon that if your competitors don't do that, you're going to win so much more easily.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do think that over the next 3 years, in my opinion, that's exactly where I think that's where the puck's going. The people that are going to win on Amazon are going to be the people that can drive external traffic to just find the product on Amazon. And I like to think like the days of like arbitraging the buy box or keywords on Amazon, I think they're few and far between at this point, right? It's so competitive. And that's what we've all been taught. Look at this keyword. How many keywords are there? Like, okay, you could probably win on this keyword. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, that goes away. What doesn't go away is demand generation, brand awareness. And that's exactly what I think agentic commerce is going to bring to the world. And I also believe that that's what social commerce is going to bring to the world. And right now, I believe like in 2026, like it is the creator gold rush. Can you build an affiliate army and creators that are just obsessively like obsessed with your brand, right? That will continue to talk about your brand, because you're right. It makes it 10 times easier to launch on Amazon now.
Yeah. And again, I think many products can be launched on Amazon. I'm not saying they can't, but I'm saying it's going to be a lot easier for you to launch on Amazon if it also works on other platforms. And just to be very clear, like Amazon is a search engine, right? People are typing in whatever they want to buy and they're coming ready to buy. Shopify is all about AOV and LTV. Average order value, lifetime value is where it's at. And that means you're going to run meta ads. It's all about your ROAS, and that's really all you're looking for. And TikTok is all about discovery and getting the attention of the potential customer. And if it's like in the right price point, probably under $50, and it's an impulse buy, they're going to buy it. Also, expensive products do well on TikTok these days. But the point is they are very different channels, and most products don't fit all three. Like if I sell silicone spatula, it can only work on Amazon. I cannot sell it anywhere else. And if my entire brand is commodity kitchen products, that's all I'm doing, that's fine. But that seller shouldn't now launch a supplement brand. Instead, what they should do is they should launch more unique products that are kitchen products that can work across platforms, or launch a consumable product in the kitchen space that can go through, like that can work across platforms. And I think that's what sellers are missing. And when you said brand, that's what I think a brand is. A brand is just a niche you're choosing to target. And by choosing the right products, you can expand your niche and target audience and marketplaces at the same time. So if all you're selling is like silicone spatulas and pots and pans, that's fine. But by choosing different products to launch next, you expand your brand niche overall. And when I started my journey as an entrepreneur, in my Amazon journey, I started as like the Amazon expert. And what I'm doing now with my new brand is I want to expand it outside of Amazon to become like an Ecomm expert, right? I don't want to just stay in the Amazon game anymore. And I think what will remain with this AI thing, I think we will have personal brands. That's why me and you are kind of trying to build our own brands. Community is what's going to stay next. And that's why I have my own program and summit and stuff. And brand, like e-commerce brands, omnichannel brands, I think that's what's going to remain at the end. So that's why those are the three things I'm focused on. If you ask me about like the next 5-10 years, that's where I see everything is going. And I'm trying to build myself in the future if I can, and not like rank products on Amazon, right?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And I agree with everything that you just talked about, and how brand owners can maybe start transitioning from the old way of launching products on Amazon to kind of like pick their head up and look at some of the other opportunities that are available. Because you're right. I think a lot of people do try to jump onto TikTok Shop and they don't have success there. And then they wonder why. And it's like, well, your product's not very demonstratable, right? Your product isn't really differentiated, like your basic silicone spatula, right? And so you do have to think through and create something that is differentiated that could go viral on those platforms if you want to have success over there. So
yeah, one thing to consider as well. Sorry for getting off. One thing to consider as well. If you don't have affiliates or creators picking up your product easily, no one's going to buy it because they're your customers, right? If they don't want it for free from you,
yeah,
no one is going to buy it. It doesn't matter that you have 0 reviews or you have 50 reviews instead of 1,000. Nobody cares. Like if they don't want it for free, no one's going to buy it.
yep. Totally agree. And also just like as a separate side note on this subject, for those of you looking to get into TikTok Shop, and if you're possibly working with an agency, I'll tell you my experience with an agency. My first experience with an agency is that they're like, oh yeah, we'll get you a bunch of sales on TikTok Shop. We know it. Long story short, after 3 months, they came back and they said, 0 people are interested in your products. 0 people want samples. And I said, bullcrap. There is no way that is a true statement because we do thousands and thousands of orders a month on Amazon. So I know there's demand for my products. So when I decided to dive into TikTok Shop myself, I'm the one who unlocked that. And we had a massive amount of people requesting samples, and we went viral within our first 30 days. And so all I would say is be careful with who you end up trusting in the TikTok Shop space right now, because everybody's claiming that they're experts. But TikTok Shop is still so new that like the playbook, and I've been to many, many TikTok Shop summits and masterminds right now, everybody has a different playbook. There is not one strategy that works for every single brand. It is unique and you need to trod your own path. And so I would just like give that caveat to everybody, because I know I've spoken to a lot of sellers like, well, I worked with this agency, and I was like, that's your problem. You're working with an agency. Your problem is the agency.
Let me talk about this from a different angle, which is PPC for Amazon.
Let's hear it.
So I'm very bullish these days on don't hire an agency to manage your PPC. That's going to be a mistake. All the 8 figures I'm working with, all the 8-figure sales I'm working with right now, don't use an agency. The big majority of the 7-figure sales I'm working with, don't use an agency. The most successful sales I've seen on Amazon figure it out on their own. I think an agency is a great solution. If Amazon is 10-20% of your revenue, great. By all means, use an agency, have them even manage the full account. That's completely fine, and I get it. And I think that agencies are great for that. But if you are 99% Amazon, or Amazon is your entire business, just do it yourself. You have to figure it out. In my book, I wrote something that says along the lines of, you need someone on your team to understand PPC on a deep level. And if you don't have someone, that someone is you, unfortunately. And I think there are so many agencies, like I think agencies are just doing it the wrong way, charging based on ad spend. And it's like counterintuitive and the incentives are not aligned. And also you're trying to aim after a certain tacos. You have to stop aiming for a certain tacos. I just did a talk the other day. And the talk was tacos is a myth, was the entire talk. I really think that tacos is just a lever you can pull. Like, what's better, a 10% tacos or a 20% tacos? I can bring your tacos to 0 by spending 0 money on PPC. Tacos is just a lever you can pull, like price. I always compare tacos to price. I don't like, is it better to be a 10% tacos and $20 or 15% tacos and $25? I don't know. It depends where I make more profit, gain more market share, make more sales. That's what I'm really after. So if an agency wants to be a good agency, they need to chase those KPIs, which is profit, sales, market share. Market share is calculated by rank and subcategory BSR. Those are the only 3 KPIs you should be looking at, and everything else doesn't really matter. I also believe that whoever is managing PPC needs to control the price, coupons, deals, all of that stuff. Also be able to at least direct on the creative on how to improve the conversion rate of the main image and listings overall. All of that is their responsibility. That's all the day-to-day stuff. The whole operations of this business needs to, like, in its core, it's supply chain and PPC. They work hand in hand. and they feed each other off. We can push this product. We need to like slow down this product, and they just work together. But I think so many sellers get this wrong by saying, I'm just going to use an agency. And also PPC is your second biggest expense after inventory. And I don't think anyone would let an agency tell them how many units to order and how to ship their units. I don't think that's ever going to happen. So why do that for your PPC?
Yeah. Tomer, I couldn't agree with you more on that statement. We actually had a podcast that I recorded with Stefano from Nomads. What's unique about what they do is that they can be an agency. If you're just getting started on Amazon, maybe that 1 to 3 million mark, an agency is not a bad option. But what I love about Nomads is that they will then teach you and your team how to go do it yourself. And so that's what kind of like we've done is one of the best tips I would recommend is like you hire a PPC expert on your team. And then my best strategy is like every 6 months, we get a new consultant that works with them. And then they share, because guess what? You ask 100 different PPC consultants what their strategies are, you're going to get 100 different answers. And so what we're doing is like, we're leveraging the mind of all of these different consultants and then cherry picking like, hey, share with me, what would you do with our brand? And then we obviously have years and a decade of experience with our brand to say like, okay, that actually might work. Or nope, sorry, we've been there, done that. We've tested that. Like that's not going to work.
Yeah.
But like, I would encourage the listeners, like it's like a stair step approach. Like we have mastered PPC, but only after lots of mistakes, lots of trial and error, and learning from experts in the industry.
Definitely. So Stefano is a good friend. He spoke at my event, sponsored my event, the recent one we did, and we recommend his agency. They're doing a great job. And as you said, they help implement using Scale Insights in your business, which Scale Insights is the other software we recommend sellers to use as well for PPC. And I do think that an agency is great if it's temporary, if you're still small and trying to figure stuff out. But it cannot be your long-term strategy, because the reason is, right? Why? Because let's say it stops working. Let's say it works great for 6 months and then it stops working. What are you going to do? You're back to square one, or even worse than square one. And you cannot take that risk. And once, let's say it does well, but you're overpaying, whatever, you want to try something else, you don't have the knowledge. The knowledge is within the agency. Even if they tell you what they're doing, you cannot replicate that yourself. So you're back to square one again. So with all of that, I think you have to bring it in-house. Similar to bring again compared to supply chain. It's the same thing. So if you talk about TikTok, for example, for the past year, I've learned everything I could about TikTok. I saw your talk at Kevin's event, and I've seen like so many different things on this topic to just learn as much as I can and absorb as much as I can. And I'm like, okay, I get it. This is what I need to do. These are the products I need to sell, and I just need to figure it out like I figured out Amazon, right? So it's just one of those things you have, I believe you need to do yourself. And I talk to a lot of agencies as well, and I think agencies are a great source of knowledge to understand what's working at scale, what is always true, right? In terms of like just what 5 agencies agree on, that's probably like a good thing to do. So, and when you said like 100 PPC experts are going to give you 100 opinions, it's not that one is right and 99 are wrong. It just, there are a lot of ways to run PPC. And I think you need to figure it out on your own. And I will just finish with this to say, if you are building an omnichannel business, I think you have 2 options to take. And I don't know what your team structure is, Jess. I would love to hear from you, but I think there are only 2 structures. So either you go departments, so that means sales, marketing, so on, or you go Shopify, TikTok, Amazon, and you treat them almost like 3 different entities, which is what I'm building. And then I have like supply chain and product development as separate departments.
Yeah. No, totally agree with you on that as well. So let's now transition from talking about PPC. We understand PPC is important. I think to put a bow around that, Tomer, you talked about like the best launch strategy on Amazon today. Let's say we don't have social media marketing. It's PPC, right? So make sure, that's why I think like PPC is one of the biggest expense. It is the biggest expense on your P&L next to the Amazon FBA expenses that you're paying, and next to your overall, like your cost of goods, right? Those are like, those are your three biggest expenses: cost of goods,
Right.
FBA, and PPC. What do you have the most control over? Your PPC can change dramatically on a month over month basis. Your cost of goods isn't going to fluctuate month over month as much, and neither is FBA, but you really can do some damage and do some good things in the PPC space. So just to echo your sentiments there, that's why PPC is so important. If you don't have an expert on your team, I would highly encourage you to go find one, get them ramped up. It may take a year or two for them to actually get to a place where you're like, I trust these guys like fully to run this thing. But just know, like, the pain, the juice is worth the squeeze, and the pain that you have to go through to get that set up.
And I'll also say the difference they might, the listeners might think, oh, but what if that person quits, right? Or I need to fire them. Well, the knowledge stays in-house. That's the difference. Yep. You build the knowledge in-house and you can bring in a replacement to take over.
Yeah, exact 100%. They should obviously be documenting their processes along the way. So if you're not doing that, that's a whole other conversation of right. Organization and structure that you want for your team. So let's transition now, Tomer, to what is the right team structure for an e-commerce brand. And I think like you talk about this a lot in your group, and you say like, hey, these are the specific roles I feel like you need to be successful. So let's start in the Amazon space. Let's say somebody's been running their brand on Amazon. Amazon's 90+% of their sales at this point. What does that team structure look like? What do you see working for a lot of your sellers?
Yeah, so I will say, I think 99% of them make the same mistake, myself included, right? Which is they don't hire as early as they should. Everybody that I know that hired people wish they hired people earlier. That's one. The second thing I think that they all do wrong is they try to hire specialists or like for very specific roles like customer support and a graphic designer and a PPC person and a supply chain person and so on and so on. What ends up happening is you are doing everything yourself. You are fine, let's say, but now you have these 5, 6, 7 people that work under you. They don't work together. They all report to you. And it's much, much, much worse than you were before on your own. So I think that's the most difficult position to be in. What I tell sellers instead they should do is they should understand first who they are, if they are more creative or more analytic. So the analytic person is the one handling operations, which is supply chain PPC. And a creative person is the one handling most of the growth of the business, which is new products, new marketplaces, social media, all of that aspect of stuff. So a very analytic brain, like numbers oriented, and a very creative brain, which is like ideas and stuff. So whichever you are, let's say you're more analytic, the first person you should hire is the opposite of you, which is a very creative person, to take over all of the creative work in your business. And you don't need to pay an arm and a leg for that role necessarily. You can pay $1,500, $2,000 a month, whatever you can find. And I will also say that culture is very important for that specific role because you're hiring for a management position. You're not hiring for them just to be an employee. Because what you want to do is you want to build the company from the ground up. So you want to have managers to begin with. And then once they are overwhelmed, once they have too much going on, then they can hire people underneath themselves. And if you think about this business as a startup, which is what most of us have, it's just like a bootstrapped startup. So we're making a bunch of money. We're making like 50K, 100K a month. We got like 15, 20% profit. I got some money in the bank. Hire someone as soon as you can afford to. Most startups have like 3 people. They have like a finance person, a marketing person, and a product person. That's most startups. So if you're on your own, you're probably missing 1 or 2 people in your company right now that just can figure stuff out, and you can just build the company from the ground up. And that's what I've been teaching 7 and 8 figure sellers for the past 5, 6 years. And they've been very successful doing that by just hiring more generalists that can do a lot of stuff at the same time with a growth mindset, sharp, intelligent people. We are not dealing with rocket science here. This is not a complicated business or tasks. You just want someone that gets stuff done. And once you have those 2 people, you need 4 or 5 more people underneath them. And that's really it. If your entire business is Amazon, that's it to ramp up to 7 or 8 figures. Obviously, it depends on what you're selling. If you're in like clothing and you have like 1,000 SKUs, maybe it's different. But most private label brands I'm working with have like 2, 3, 4 products that are killing it, and the rest are like okay, but they can have a very small team.
I do think like when people are first starting out, I think one of the most important things, and you touched on this, which is like you need to hire like management level staff. Because like so often I hear people that are like, oh, I got this VA for $3 an hour. And I'm like, great. Like, I think guess what they're probably going to do? Exactly what you tell them to do and nothing else. They will not think outside the box. If you have exactly like, I need you to push these buttons 100 times a day, sure, they can go do that. But if you're getting to that level, like AI is starting to get to the place where you should be able to replace somebody that's just pushing 100 buttons per day. But right. The main object here is I still think one of the biggest competitive advantages any business owner can have is your team. And so for me, we have a very rigorous like hiring and vetting process that we walk people through, because I know that human intellectual capital, it's hard to come by. Like the top 1% of team members, like most of them, the top A players, they're all hired somewhere. They are working somewhere else right now, and they are not looking for a job. So I know that in order to get them, it's not going to be easy. But if I can, and I have seen this in my business, we have nearly doubled this year, and I would attribute it 100% to the team members that we brought on. And it's because like they own the domain 100%. Because again, like similar to your story that you shared, like when I first started hiring, it was much more of me telling them exactly what to do. Right. And then I learned it's like, oh no, the secret unlock here is hiring management level staff that they can see the problem, they can identify the solution to the problem, and they can actually implement the solution without me even needing to be involved. And I think that's the critical piece that I see, Tomer, most of the time, that people have a bunch of VAs that do exactly what the boss or the owner tells them to do, but they don't have critical thinkers.
Yeah, I would also say your business is only as strong as your weakest employee, right? So whatever that may be. And also if you hire, let's say you are starting out and you hire a $3 an hour employee, that might be okay. But do you actually want to talk to this person every day and get him to do stuff every day? It's going to be your person for at least a few years if everything works out. So you want to be very careful with who you bring into your world. And I think one of the reasons to build a business to begin with is to enjoy the people you're working with, right? Which you cannot necessarily do if you're an employee in a different company. You don't decide who you work with. This is kind of like almost employee arbitrage, what we are doing as entrepreneurs, I think. Because you might think, oh, I'm going to bring someone and pay them $30K a year, $100K a year, whatever it may be. But they're paying you. You're not paying them anything. Like, if they're doing their job right, they're growing the business. And it might be growing the business by their work or by them freeing up your time or other staff's time. So you could go find that unique product that will triple the business. I say that you are one product away from doubling your business, but you're also one employee away from the same thing. And I think we just had a $15 million seller in AlphaPack in my program, and he had 0 employees, and he told me, I want to launch 50 new products this year. I'm like, you need to launch some employees first. Let's focus on that. You didn't have a vacation with your wife for the past 4 years. What are you talking about? Let's figure that out first before we do anything else.
I couldn't agree more. And I think on that note, as well, Tomer, is you mentioned this briefly, but like, hey, if you start with a $3 an hour person, like they can be around for a couple years. And I do think that is a very important principle to understand here. The team that got you here is not the team that's going to get you there. So I do think like entrepreneurs listening to this, like it is okay to like stay at maybe a smaller level. Like I'm not using that as a cop out to just hire a warm body. Like, no, you still need to vet them and like if you can find an amazing rock star at $3 an hour, great. Like kudos to you. However, you're going to have to kiss a lot of toads and review a lot of resumes, a lot of interviews to get to that point, to find a needle in a haystack. When your business is scaling up and you have more budget for hiring even better talent, that's when you can actually poach and recruit talent a lot faster that is going to be A-level talent. So it's really like the higher your budget and the salary, the more quickly you can bring in A talent to your business, because you could go effectively recruit and poach them. And again, I think like business is constantly like, you're just leveling up one level at a time. And so you can start there, but then ideally maybe your goal is, hey, I want to be paying, right now I'm paying $30,000 a year, but I would love to get people that I'm paying 6-figure salaries to. And then from there, like I've heard some of the salaries at some of the other 9-figure brands. You have people that are making well over $500,000 that are driving significant growth to these brands. So for me, that's kind of like the next level is like, wouldn't it be awesome to have somebody that like is so good that I am paying them like $1 million a year, because like they are that good, they provide that much value to the business. And so to you talked about this, which I loved, which was, hey, it's not that you're paying this team member, like, yes, you are, but like they should be driving so much growth to the business that you are more than happy to exchange those funds for what they're bringing back to the business for you.
It's an investment, right? You're paying for an investment here. It's not an expense when you spend money on your team, if you do it the right way. So I think I agree with everything. I do think there are 2 reasons people leave or you let them go, is because either the company outgrows them or they outgrow the company. So if you have someone for $3 an hour and they're amazing, you just need to make sure you bring them along for the ride. So when I bring in that initial 1 or 2 people, it might be $2,000 a month for even a part-time work. But I strongly believe in that person. They believe in my business and my brand. So I want them to grow with it together, and I'm taking them for the ride with me. So I think that's completely fine. And I've seen a lot of businesses that succeeded that way, and people that evolved within the company for a few years. And I think a lot of people want that. And I think that's like a great way to look at this. And if you outgrow them, fine, and replace them, and that's okay. But you don't have to if they grow with you. And the worst thing that can happen is if they try to evolve and move faster, but the company doesn't allow them, so they leave and go to a better company. So you don't want that to happen either.
Tomer, I'm curious, what's your process? How do you go find really wicked smart people? How do you find A-level talent?
So I don't have that many people on my team, right? So I have very few people that I'm working with for a few years, and it's going well, and I found them through random places, I will say. I don't have a robust process like yours. I will add to that. Maybe one more thing I will add to this is culture, which I think is not discussed enough. I know we talked a lot about numbers, 30K a year, 100K a year. Someone who is A-level is not going to come to work for you because you paid them 100K. They're going to come to work for you because they want to work in this company. And what I will ask everyone listening is, if you could work anywhere, would you come and work in your company? And if the answer is no, then maybe something needs to change, right? So I think that once you understand what your culture is, what your company values are, it's basically what you stand for as a person, I believe, are your company values. And those are your people. That's your tribe. Those are people looking to work with you as a group, as a collective. And if you share similar values and similar culture, you're going to do great as a team. And when you show that, and when you send that to A players, they will chase you to work for you, right? Even if you pay them a bit less than what they're getting now, or maybe it's more bonuses on the back of it or whatever, but they're not coming just for the money anymore.
Yeah. Tomer, love this conversation today. Is there anything else that you feel like we need to share with the listeners that we haven't yet touched on today?
There is, I think, a lot of stuff we can talk about further. I will say that I think what I will also add is that if you are still working in the day-to-day stuff in your business and you're doing 7 figures, you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't touch anything with supply chain. You shouldn't touch anything customer support, PPC, anything day-to-day. You should be out of that by now. And if you're not, you're missing 1 or 2 more people. The next thing you should be focused on is new products, new marketplaces, and you should always have something new coming in as a product. Any big brand I can think of, if it's Tesla or McDonald's or Apple or whatever brand it is, they're all launching new products. Like none of them ever take their foot off the gas. So you should always be working on new products. I've seen so many sales focusing on their systems and SOPs and team and all of that, and neglecting new products, and their business doesn't grow, right? So I think that needs to be like always have like a bit of a fire burning there to have new products. And if you have like one or two products you're working on, it's probably not enough. You need to have more, because you need to be able to say no to products that just don't work out in terms of profitability, or you cannot get it to work, or whatever it may be, and you cannot fall in love with those products. And then the third aspect, I think, is getting your numbers right and really knowing what your KPIs are and what your cash flow is that you know you're very big on, and really understanding the Amazon fees and everything, and your like your PPC numbers, and everything. You just need to really get it, and knowing how to read a P&L properly is very important in this business. And I think once you have that figured out, you can decide, do I want to build an actual brand out of this? Do I want to sell this and do another thing instead? But if you really love what you're selling, I think your products and your customers, I would highly encourage you to try to go the omnichannel route, build an actual brand out of this, because I do think multiples are different. The business is different. It's a lot more fun to be able to just talk about your brand publicly.
Fantastic advice and recommendations there, Tomer. You know, as we wrap things up, I love to leave the audience with 3 actionable takeaways from every episode. So here are my actionable takeaways. Let me know if I'm missing something here. Action item number 1, you hit the nail on the head. It's all about growth and new product development. So you, as the entrepreneur, as the CEO, your most important role is to focus on growth and sales. And guess what? If you're having an issue in the business, guess what? I think the answer is more sales. Because in general, sales cures all. So you have to ask yourself the question every day you come to work: what did you do today that is going to lead you closer to a new product launch? So that could be, how many new product opportunities did you identify today? How many new quotes from manufacturers did you get today? Those are the leading indicators that you can track, and you should measure on a day-to-day basis to say, hey, if I didn't get 5 quotes today, or if I didn't find 5 new opportunities today, guess what? That's 5 less opportunities of me being able to launch a product in the future, because a launched product was 6 to 9 to 12 months in the making. And so every day you postpone launching or thinking or creating the new sales strategy to get onto a new marketplace or to launch that new product, you are pushing out your growth even further into the future. And so for most Amazon sellers, your biggest growth opportunity truly is to launch new products. And I would say you keep launching new till you get to that 8 figures in revenue, $10 million, $1 million a month. At that point, then I think you should have the team and the systems enough that allow you to say, okay, I've got the team. They can keep producing new products. They can keep managing Amazon. Now I'm going to go explore TikTok Shop or Shopify, because I think it's important that
I just want to add one more thing to this, where you said you need to focus on new products at the beginning. I agree. I also think that when you start with your product, you have all the time in the world, because all you do is product development. When you have 1 or 2 or 3 products, you can maintain your supply chain, your PPC, you can kind of hold all of it together. But then you get caught up with the day-to-day stuff, with your PPC, with your supply chain, with a few team members, and you neglect new products. So you cannot allow that to happen. So that's why you need to bring as quickly as you can people to handle the day-to-day, so you can still focus on new products, and then you can delegate that as well, and then you can go to TikTok or whatever you want next.
Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, like as you begin hiring, it's all about buying back your time. A great book recommendation, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. You should be actively trying to take things off your plate that are not revenue generating, right? That are just administrative, need to be pushed out the door. So that's action item number 1. Make sure on a day-to-day basis, you are doing something to move the needle for new product development, new distribution channels for your brand. Action item number 2. This is one of the biggest expense line items on every e-commerce business owner's P&L, and that is PPC, or advertising. So what are you doing to establish an in-house team that allows you to be more nimble, that allows you to rank better, because at the end of the day, PPC on Amazon is meant to do one thing, and that is to increase your sales, that thereby should also increase your net profit and help support and boost your ranking on Amazon. That's the whole end goal. And so we've talked about this in detail. A lot of agencies, it's a percentage of ad spend. Those incentives aren't aligned. They're not looking at your organic rankings and trying to boost your organic rankings. They're not looking at your net profit and saying like, hey, we've tested all of this out. Here's the best tacos for you. Their main job is just like spend, 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 spend. And so again, a core competency in your business needs to be PPC management. Bring that in-house, get some people. There's agencies that can even teach you how to bring people in-house and some basic processes to begin doing this in-house. Action item number 3, this is where it comes down to team. And we talked about the importance of like, it's not just hiring a warm body, it's hiring people that can make critical decisions, that can identify problems, identify the solutions, and then implement those solutions into your business without you needing to tell them exactly what to do. One of the best books for this is going to be Leadership Secrets from Nick Saban. If you look at the football program of Alabama and the number of championships that they won, and the reason why Alabama is the way Alabama is because Nick Saban's entire focus, and consider him the CEO, his entire focus was on recruitment. Who is my next star that I'm bringing in? And everything in their office and in their football program was all around what is the first experience that first recruit experiences, from the phone call to the letters they get to the on-campus visits. So likewise, how can you apply that into your own business? And if recruitment and talent development can become your one thing, it is the one thing that creates the biggest moat in your business that will allow you to be able to stay defensible against the onslaught of overseas knockoffs and competition going on today. So Tomer, those are my 3 action items. Anything else you think I missed here?
No, I think you nailed it.
Awesome. Tomer, final 3 questions for you. Number 1, what's been the most influential book that you've read and why?
Yeah, that's a very deep question. I will say the number 1 book obviously is this one here, which is my own, Ride the Amazon Wave. I will say that this book is something that I wish I had when I started out. This is not a beginner's book by any means. It was meant for active sales to scale to 7-8 figures or exit. But this was like a 2-year project during COVID that I did on my own. But I will say if I can mention 3 books, if that's okay, that affected me a lot.
Let's hear it.
And I think hopefully all 3 of them you don't know. I know you are a bookworm like myself, so hopefully you don't know any of them, but let's see. So the first one is called Giftology. Giftology is a very short read. It's an amazing book on customer experience. A lot of the products I'm working on are based on that exact methodology. Second book is called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara, an amazing book of the number 1 restaurant in the world in New York and how it became the number 1 restaurant. And again, all about customer experience and how to treat your customers the right way. And the last one, and I think this is the only book I read more than once in my life, like 3-4 times. And this is for those who are struggling with their mindset and with their self-talk and not speaking to them in a positive way. It's simply called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And it's a book I read years ago, and I keep coming back to it every few years. And I highly, highly recommend it for anyone struggling with that. And I think understanding yourself and talking to yourself comes long before you can hire other people. If you cannot treat yourself the right way, you couldn't work with anybody. So I do think to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to figure out yourself first. And that's why my new brand is all about productivity and focus and stuff like that, because I truly believe this is what entrepreneurs need before they can do anything else.
Great book recommendations. I had heard of one, Giftology, and I had met him, the author, there at one of my previous masterminds a few years ago. But those are fantastic book recommendations. I even wrote a couple of those down. So thanks for those, Tomer. Next question. What is your favorite AI tool or software tool that you've been using, and how have you been using it?
Yeah, so we've been using a few different tools. ChatGPT is the main one by far that we use the most, especially for, again, understanding product development processes. We do have in our program, we have like an entire AI section there, and called AI Vault. You can also buy that separately and stuff, but that's like every week you have a different episode coming out. On AI, we just had like a Canva episode, and we had AI videos and everything to do with AI and e-commerce. So I will say ChatGPT is what I'm using the most, especially for product development. But also, I've been obsessed with my health this past year or so. And what I do with ChatGPT is I take a picture of everything I eat, put it in there, and it just tells me how many calories, what else can I eat today, and that's still super helpful. Because I never counted calories before, so that's like a big help. And I think I've seen so many different ways people use ChatGPT, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, that's by far my number one.
I love the idea of taking a picture of everything you eat and documenting all of that, and then going to get your blood work done, right? Every 6 months, there's like functional health. That's what we're doing. And then you dump it in there, and I also will upload. So I think all in one chat, upload like your workouts. So if you use like the Whoop or the Oura Ring or anything like that, you upload all of that data, and I promise you, is probably going to be a lot better recommendations than any doctor would.
I have an Oura Ring as well. I think whatever you're tracking, you can actually succeed with, right?
Fantastic. All right, final question. Who is somebody that you admire or respect the most in the e-commerce space that other people should be following, and why?
Yeah, this is a tough question, because one of the things I talk a lot about is that inspiration is coming from the outside, and I rarely listen to e-commerce people, I want to say, but one that stands out is Davey Fogarty, who is just amazing on anything to do with he doesn't talk about Amazon at all. It's all Shopify stuff and building brands, and I think just super interesting in terms of what he chooses to put out on YouTube and videos and stuff. So that's the one I would mention.
He is definitely well known in the Shopify space. So if people haven't heard of Davey, great one to look up. Tomer, this has been awesome. If people want to learn more about you, they want to find your book, they want to find your mastermind courses, your brand, what's the best place for people to follow you at?
Yeah, so you can go to jointopdog.com. That's where you can learn about my programs, my summit, if you like. My book, Ride the Amazon Wave, is on Amazon, Audible, anywhere you can imagine. And if you want to see my new brand on productivity and focus, you can go to getmessless.com. We're doing a lot of interesting stuff there. So
awesome. Well, Tomer, this has been a productive conversation. Loved every bit of it. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Visit ecommbreakthrough.com for more information. If you've enjoyed today's episode, the best way you can show your appreciation is by clicking the subscribe button and quickly leaving a review. See you again next time.